Welcome back to the Medical Alley Association podcast series, From Challenge to Champion, where we're highlighting Medical Alley leaders who used personal challenges as fuel for action, ultimately leading to the creation of innovative new companies, care solutions, and new perspectives in their careers to help others experiencing similar struggles. Our guest today is co-founder and CEO of Stemonix, Ping Ye. Ping, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you start off by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Hi, my name's Ping Ye. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Stemonix, and we are discovering new medicines through the convergence of human organoids and data science technologies.
When was Stemonix founded, and can you tell me a little bit about why you started it?
Well, it was a pretty interesting journey. Back in 2013, I wasn't feeling very well, and turned out I had a form of blood cancer, so Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it was a difficult time and was diagnosed with that. And I would say that it was difficult because I was actually resistant to chemotherapy that they had given. So I had done about 8 rounds of chemotherapy and then had to switch to an even more potent version of chemo, and that wasn't a lot of fun at all. And it was through that experience of having to go and do even more toxic forms of chemo that made me wonder if there was a better way, because the more toxic version was potentially even more dangerous for my heart. So that's planted the seed of, is there a better way? Can we find medicines while testing on human cells without risking the lives of the patient? Because at the time, it felt like I was the guinea pig. And so from that experience, it was, okay, maybe my background in nanotechnology and software and material science and engineering and manufacturing could all come together to make a difference in the life sciences. So I did a kind of a career pivot and founded the company in early 2014. So it's been a few years now.
So essentially, you test treatments on cells to see how they'll respond?
Yeah, so our base technology, which is kind of the ante to do work in this space, is based off of induced pluripotent stem cells. So that is a technology that won the Nobel Prize in 2012, and I was able to license that technology. And essentially what we're able to do with that, with those capabilities, are to take anyone's biopsy, let's say blood or skin, and convert that into a special type of stem cells called induced pluripotent stem cells. And that's what we then take to convert into other organ cell types. So for us, we're known for making not just brain cells, but forming them into more complex organoids, which are basically representative models of people's organ systems. And in our case, we've simplified it down, but made it also very consistent and at high scale so that we can do drug discovery on them. So what we do is we make plates like this filled with, I know we're on a podcast, but if you do show this, we make plates about the size of a large smartphone, and in them are filled with nearly 400 little hearts or brains or pancreas in them. And so you can put different potential future drugs, we call them compounds, but you can put the compounds at different dosages on each one of these little representative brains or hearts.
Amazing. And so when you decided to take the leap and found Stemonix, was it nerve-wracking? And at what point did it become your full-time job?
If I go back in time, seems like a long time ago. I feel like doing startup is, you feel like you're packing, well, you are packing a lot of hours in every day and every week. So it feels like a long time ago. But also If I go back in 2014, it was a challenging decision for sure. It was, when you go through, a year-long cancer treatment, and you go back to what feels like normal life because you're able to work again. I was probably in my previous job for, I want to say, about half a year. I just felt that my passion for the technology I worked on was not there. I just had this strong curiosity and passion for something in the life sciences. And it was a difficult decision because for a year, I wasn't able, about a year I think, for not able to work, and to go back and rebuild finances and all of that. It was a challenge, and I was successful in my previous career, if you will, and it was difficult to say, okay, I'm switching. And that's a lot of change, especially when you have a family. So wife and daughter, and it was a difficult decision to say, hey, we're gonna go for it, really, as a family, in this pretty totally different area of science and biology. Because back in 2014, the way we approach what we do at Stemonix really wasn't done. And even the companies that were trying to do it, there were less than a handful of companies. So it was a pretty big risk, I would say. So it was difficult.
So I know you don't come from a traditional background in this field. What have you learned about drug toxicity since starting Stemonix?
Wow. So I'm coming from maybe a non-biology perspective. I am an engineer by training. I do look at this through the lens of being a patient, but I did, one of my loves outside of engineering is neuroscience, which I guess many people don't know, but neuroscience is something that I've studied for decades now. So it came in handy, I guess. It's kind of funny how it's come full circle. I think with regards to toxicity or safety and efficacy discovery, I would say that what we've done is shined a light on something that really wasn't, I wouldn't say done as well, but really the world wasn't really capable of looking at. So I guess from my perspective, when we look at toxicity, we'll look at things like how cell death, and different aspects of the health of cells. And yet, what we learned was between healthy and dead cells, or apoptosis, as a lot of scientists like to say, there's a really big window, especially in the brain, where we're able to shine a light on the functionality of the system. And so I think the ability to elucidate that area of understanding biology has been really amazing to be a part of. It's like having a front seat to biology and understanding, working to understand what's going on there, because we're able to have such functional, people like to call them mini brains. So, we have such functional mini brains, or our trademark microbrains, that we're able to study how different compounds and their mechanisms of action affect the function of a neural network. And we're able to do it at scale, in high throughput. And that's been really exciting to see. And then to recapitulate diseases in similar models. So seeing how each disease has a fingerprint, if you will, its own pattern of behavior in the function that we're observing, has been really exciting. And being able to affect that in a positive way, in terms of rescuing a functionality, has been really exciting to see. And then to, in the end, bring my background into play. So the engineering and the software, and to build and guide a team that has been able to converge the worlds of biology and software has been really exciting and a lot of fun, actually.
Have you faced any challenges leading Stemonix through COVID-19?
I think everybody's got a story there. I think we are not alone as an essential business finding new therapeutics, and we've done work in the viral area as well. So I think on multiple dimensions, it's been a challenge, especially for a fast-growing small company. We, operationally had to go into shifts, as you can imagine. Our revenue stream was hard hit because all of big pharma seemed to shut down all at once, and I'm sure this has affected many who are listening to this podcast and observe this in other industries too. A lot of pharma were affected. These are global conglomerates that had most likely employees that were affected by the virus, so they had to shut down, and a lot of labs shut down. But what we did was we used this time doing a lot of video conferencing to plan for when labs would reopen and companies would reopen. So we are now, I think, reaping those benefits, or the time we spent planning for the many months that I feel like our customers were shut down, but they were still doing the video conferencing. So we continued to have those conversations on how we can better position ourselves when the doors reopen, and it's starting to. So we're happy about that.
And lastly, I really wanted to ask you, because you are always such a great advocate for the Medical Alley community, can you tell me a little bit about what it has been like running a startup in Minnesota's Medical Alley, and why was Medical Alley the right place for Stemonix to grow and thrive?
Yeah, I actually remember like it was yesterday when I went into the Medical Alley offices. I think it was at the time, in terms of number of employees, maybe like 2 for Stemonix. I think we were an idea. And I remember going in and sitting down with the staff and saying, this is what I want to try and do. And through the many introductions and insights that you shared about our community, my co-founder and I were able to literally from the ground up build something that in 6 years is now becoming a paradigm shift for the biotech industry, which is crazy to say. I think it's just along the way we just continued to get support from Medical Alley, whether it was from when we had 2 people to even surviving through the pandemic, from really fighting for us in working with the state government, for example. It was a very difficult time. We're getting insights on to how best reopen. That's kind of the more recent. But even just throughout the whole process of growing the company, Medical Alley's been there with us.
Thank you again for joining us for this episode of the Medical Alley Association podcast series, From Challenge to Champion. To make sure you don't miss a single episode, be sure to visit us at medicalalley.org, subscribe to our newsletter, and follow us on all of our social media channels.